Alright, this is John Kohler with OKRaw.com. Today we have another exciting episode for, and what we're going to do today is actually one of my favorite style videos where I get to interview a bunch of my friends. As a matter of fact, this one has over a dozen of my friends who've actually been into raw foods for quite a while. And I'm going to pose a question to them and hear all their answers. And you guys are going to get to also hear their answers on a specific question. And the question that I'll be asking them today is, why do some raw foodists look unhealthy? Now, I know many of you guys might think that, anybody could look unhealthy, but in particular, a lot of people think that raw foodists look unhealthy, and there are many reasons for this, and that's why I'm making this video, to let you guys know these reasons. I mean, one of the things that I think about why do raw foodists look unhealthy goes back to like a video or, from 2020, on ABC, John Stossel. I don't know how many of you guys have seen that. I've been around the raw foods for a while, but basically in the 2020 interview, John Stossel interviewed this guy named Johnny, and I'll put a picture up of Johnny right here. And if you look at Johnny, he definitely doesn't look healthy as a raw foodist. Sorry, Johnny. And everybody's on their healing journey, I will say that. But yeah, so I mean, this is what people think of when they think raw food is rail, skinny, thin, and just not healthy. So anyways, let's find out why some raw foodists look unhealthy, according to a bunch of my friends. So now we're here with Megan Elizabeth. You can learn more about her at meganelizabeth.com or check her out on YouTube at Easy to Be Raw. She's been into raw foods now for the last 6 years. And the question for Megan today is, why do raw foodists look unhealthy?
Why do raw foodists look unhealthy? I think we look pretty healthy.
We do, but some people say raw foodists are too skinny or look sick or whatever.
Yeah, so I think probably just not enough variety in their diet, not enough diversity of nutrients. They're not checking their nutrient levels, not doing blood tests, not monitoring that stuff. And, we don't live in a perfect world. We're not living out in nature, so we do need to monitor things. And we can't just eat bananas and dates all day and think we're going to look awesome. We got to eat either greens or add some supplements in. And I think, some people don't eat enough too, and they're too thin. And that's a big issue for a lot of people. And then some people eat too much. So it's like really, it sounds like cheeseball, like, to listen to your body, but actually like that really, after you've been doing it for a few years, you can't do anything but that.
So now we're here with Kendall. He's been raw for about a decade now. You can check him out at therawadvantage.com. And the question for Chris today is, Chris, why do raw foodists, many of them, look unhealthy?
Well, I guess, yeah, unhealthy is a relative term. Unhealthy compared to whom, and what raw foodists are we talking about? Because not all raw food diets are the same, and not everyone's at the same place when they're in the raw food diet. If it's your first year into a raw food diet and you're coming from your deathbed, you're probably not going to be looking amazing. If you're 10 years into a raw food diet and you're eating a raw food diet that doesn't support optimal health, you may not be looking that great. I've met severely anorexic looking, big dark circle under their eyes, raw foodists that have been doing it for years, but they're just not eating the best foods. Next to that, raw food diet isn't the panacea, it's not everything. If you're not getting enough sleep, if you're a stressed out individual, like, oh, conspiracy theories, blah, 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 the world's gonna end and I need like 80 crystals, you're not gonna be feeling that good, right? So it's like, it's a lifestyle, and it's a gradient of, how long you've been doing it, what you're exactly doing, and how balanced you are in all your other lifestyle aspects. The people that I've been looking at, I've been studying nutrition for like 15 years, and I follow those people that are getting the results I want. Those people that are long-term living and thriving on a simple raw food diet are doing exactly that. They have a holistic lifestyle, they pay attention to all the factors of health, and they're eating really simple, low-fat, high-carbohydrate plant foods, tropical fruits, young tender green vegetables, in the quantities that they enjoy as much as they possibly could desire. They don't get all in their head and worry about it all.
So now we're here with Kristina Carillo-Bukram. She's been in fully raw vegan diet for the last 9+ years now, and you can learn more about her at fullyraw.com. Today we're going to ask her some questions. Why do raw foodists look unhealthy?
I believe that raw foodists look unhealthy I think this could be several reasons. Sometimes some people don't eat enough, they get too thin. Sometimes they overeat and maybe perhaps they don't look as good as they could be, or they don't work out, or some people don't practice great personal hygiene. And I think that when you do everything right, like you have glowing skin, you feel happy, you are it just all around is a win-win beneficial situation.
All right, so we're here with Dan McDonald, the Life Regenerator. You want to check him out for sure on YouTube at Life Regenerator. And he's been into raw foods now for the last 14 years, and we're just going to simply ask Dan some questions today. Why do raw foodists look unhealthy, Dan?
Well, a lot of raw foodists got into raw foods because they were so beat up. I'm one of them, you know. I was just in rough shape, you know, all the things that I've done in my past. And so a lot of us come to it from a place of being ill, and to totally deeply regenerate the constitution and the body, you know, it can take a while to really dig deep and regenerate and activate some DNA, which brings more youthing and a fullness into the system. But a lot of times there isn't a complete regeneration and a healing, so a lot of the lines and crevices on the face that were there from the life previous, they just stay around. There's also many other reasons: not enough sleep, too much stress. Our environments are pretty harsh, you know. The fresh air is absolutely key. Low stress levels, the nervous system just being taxed left and right in our modern world with technology and 9 to 5, and the kids got to go to school, you got job, you got all kinds of stuff going on, and we live by the clock in our society instead of by our own internal natural flow. So there's just a lot working against us as human beings. So that's why I really recommend being gentle and compassionate towards people and non-judgmental, because you never really know until you walk a mile in a man's shoes. You know what I mean?
So now we're with Ronnie, which is half of the Ronnie and Min team. You can learn more about them at ubraw.com. He's been into raw foods for the last 14 years. Why do some raw foodists look unhealthy?
Well, I think that looks are very deceiving, because I've met some people that would appear to be obese, that are really light on their feet and can move around like an athlete. I've met some people that are really thin and trim that get winded after a short amount of time. So I try not to go by looks other than skin tone, clarity of their eyes, and a little bit deeper than that. But as far as like the physical appearance, I try to stay away from that, because looks can be very deceiving as to who's healthy and who's not healthy. But I personally have found that most of the people that I know, like yourself, who are raw foodists, have been raw foodists long term, and have gone from maybe starting what I would call a conventional or standard raw food diet full of a lot of too much dehydrated, too much concentrated and isolated foods, and have progressed to where they're eating just a lot of whole foods: apples, oranges, grapes, bananas, melons, things that you can just pick up and eat. Most of the people that I run into that are eating that kind of a diet look like you or me. Their tone looks good, their color looks good, they've got a fire in their voice, they've got a twinkle in their eyes.
So now we're with Dr. Dina. He's been into raw foods for the last 27 years. You can learn more about him at rawfoodeducation.com. Why do some raw foodists look unhealthy?
Why do raw foodists look unhealthy? That's one of the questions that we teach our students in our advanced educator course how to answer. So I've heard this good questions, good answer hundreds of times, maybe not hundreds, probably 70, 80, 100 times or so. All right, now first of all, it depends on what your definition of unhealthy is. So first of all, 2/3 and growing literally of Americans are overweight or obese. I know when I was, kids are mean. When I was a kid in the 70s in elementary school, people would pick on the fat kid because there weren't that many fat kids and they were weird. Today, people pick on the skinny kid because everyone's so damn fat. The skinny kid who's healthy looks abnormal, and then people say that's unhealthy, you're anorexic. They might be extremely healthy. So some vegetarians though might get too skinny. It's because they're not eating enough calories. Maybe they're not absorbing their food well. Maybe they need to address something else and put a little extra weight on. Maybe they need to work out and put some muscle on. It depends what the case may be. So some legitimate answers though. Some vegetarians are truly unhealthy. Now, vegetarian, vegan, raw, those terms, those definitions, tell people more about what someone doesn't eat compared to what they do eat. So you could be a vegetarian that eats fruits and vegetables, or you could be a vegetarian that eats processed food and cheese and butter and eggs. So some vegetarians eat a lot of fresh food and they're pretty healthy as a result. Other vegetarians eat a lot of junk food and they're not healthy as a result. So whether you're paleo, omnivore, vegan, vegetarian, raw, there are healthy choices and there are unhealthy choices. So it totally depends on what the person is doing. But don't think they're unhealthy just because they're lean. That may very well be perfectly healthy and good.
So now we're with Tim Van Orden. He's been into a raw foods diet since 2004, so that's like 10 years at this point. I admire Tim, look up to him a lot. You can learn more about him and his work at runningraw.com or his YouTube channel, Running Raw. Why do raw foodists look unhealthy?
Why do raw foodists look unhealthy? Because we are. We are unhealthy, and I'll tell you why we're unhealthy. Because according to the American Medical Association, the definition of health is the absence of observable disease. Not the absence of disease, but the absence of observable disease. That's the actual definition of health, all right? So there are plenty of people walking around, and we look at them, and we know they've got some disease. Maybe they're carrying a lot of extra weight, or we can see it in their skin, or we can see it in their eyes. And if they don't have observable disease, then they're healthy. So I don't want to be healthy. That's not my goal. My goal is to find what's above zero. Like if no disease is zero, you know, cancer and heart disease are down here like minus 50, all right? The absence of observable disease, that's probably like a minus 8. You don't have heart disease yet that's affecting you. You probably have something, you just don't know it. You're a minus 8.
Wow.
So absence of disease, 0. Yay, I'm at 0. Woo! Dude, I want to be at 50.
I want to be at 100, man.
125, right? I want to experience like power and ease and just abundant physical energy and mental energy as I move through life. So if the definition of health is way down there, I am unhealthy. I'm in a completely different place. So, but if you're asking me why raw foodists look unhealthy, well, because we don't look like regular people, because most of us are thin and lean, and that's not normal anymore. All right? And oh, for instance, okay, like people say, wow, you look gaunt, you look anorexic because you have like no fat in your face. I'm an elite endurance athlete. I train ridiculous amounts of hours. Find an elite endurance athlete that has a lot of fat on their face. It doesn't exist. I'm not anorexic, all right? It's just that I'm an athlete. But number 2, a lot of the people that moved to a raw food diet came from a place of sickness. So they're bringing whatever challenge they had with them in their life prior to that, they're bringing that into the diet. So you're seeing people that maybe had significant challenge in their life. Maybe when they were born, their mother was a smoker, and that affected their bone structure, it affected their skin, or it affected their teeth, or whatever. A lot of us have challenges, physical challenges that can't be overcome because they happened during our development and led to illness throughout our life. So when we come to the diet to try to heal, we still have those markers of previous illness. So I think that's what a lot of people think, like, well, you all look sick. Well, maybe we were all sick, and we came to the diet to get better. Maybe we still look, some people still may look unhealthy, but now they actually are. But the physical markers don't change.
Right.
Like once your face is formed, that's it, it's formed. You know, raw food diet's not going to change the structure of your face. I tried, it didn't work.
So now we're with Nomi Shannon, also known as the Raw Gourmet. She's been into raw foods now for the last 27 years, and this young lady, is nearly 71. Gonna be 71 just in a few months from now. She's looking really great. You can too, eat raw foods. But you can learn more about her at rawgourmet.com. The question for Nomi today is, why do some raw foodists look unhealthy?
That's not your question, is it? Somebody else asked, other people have asked that. I haven't noticed that, have you?
I mean, there's all kinds of people. They're on all kind of different raw foods diets, and you know, how they look could be very different, and everybody has different life experiences.
Well, you and I are at an event right now that there's about 1,400 or 1,500 raw fooders, and I haven't really noticed anyone that that stands out as looking unhealthy. Some are very thin, and that might equate to some people as being too thin or gaunt. I mean, there are a few people who are very, very thin. But they don't have that pallid look or pale or anything, so I guess I can't answer the question because I haven't found the raw fooders I know to be unhealthy looking. So I guess I have no real response.
All right, great. So now we're with Lou Corona. He's been into raw and living foods now for the last 41 years. It's definitely a long time. You can learn more about Lou at loucorona.com. And the question I have for Lou today is, why do raw foodists, or some raw foodists, look unhealthy?
Well, you see, this internal dialogue that we got going on with communication, if that is not being, in other words, if they're not thinking powerfully, if they're not in a space of love, and if they don't have a real strong connection with the body, knowing how to listen to it, and what I'm really trying to say here is that some people are still involved judging, criticizing, condemning, ridiculing themselves and also others. So when we ridicule others, when we judge and condemn others, it actually creates a negative effect on our own bodies, on our own little baby cells, which causes degeneration of the cells. Is that making sense what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. So when I learned to love and forgive and accept and anoint people with love, and recognize that every single one of us are brilliant and ingenious and creative and really special and amazing. Every one of us are. No matter good, bad, and ugly, no matter what we say and do, I also understand that people say and do things a lot of times because they don't know any better. They only do what they know, you know. So that's why it's been said, forgive those for what they don't know, right? So another thing, some people become very militant, like about certain things and certain ways of living and being. I'm not about all that. And I'm not here to force or pressure or try to convert anybody into anything. The idea of what is here and what my purpose is just to remind all those I come in contact with how incredible, how amazing, and how wonderful they are. Each one of us are. And because we're all brilliant and we're all creative and amazing. We have so much potential, it's infinite, amazing potential we have. So the last mentor came into my life. When he hung for an hour off a pipe, my first time was 3 minutes. It took everything I had to do 3 minutes. Well, 10 days later, I was up to 10 minutes. And it wasn't because I physically got stronger. It's just I got more tapped in here. I got tapped into that infinite potential that lies within us. All of a sudden, I go further, 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 like that. And then I went beyond that later. But I'm just saying that as we get our thinking in a powerful place and come from a very powerful perspective that life is so precious, and that no matter what we experience, no matter what we attract into our lives, is for us to learn from it and grow and evolve from it. And so no longer shall we judge and criticize and condemn anybody for anything that's happened to us. Now we take responsibility. We create and we manifest our future in the way we want it to go. And also too, a lot of people misuse the elements. We're supposed to embrace the sun, breathe the air, drink the good water, and ground ourselves. But some people abuse the elements, and that can also cause a lot of destructive aging to the body as well. And also, on the third principle, a lot of people are not doing enough stimulation of the lymphatic system, so it gets very sluggish. So just because you eat raw foods doesn't mean you're going to be healthy, because sometimes the raw foods is not always enzyme rich, or maybe it hasn't been cultured, or the seeds haven't been soaked or germinated. Because I've seen a lot of people that eat raw foods, they just eat raw nuts and raw seeds and raw fruits and vegetables, but they don't do anything to stimulate the lymphatic system, or not enough. And also eating raw foods, raw gourmet foods and all that, a lot of it's not enzyme activated, and it's very hard to digest in that way. Like eating raw nuts and raw seeds is almost like eating cooked food. It's actually harder to digest in that way compared to when you soak them. So I'd rather see people soak their seeds before they eat it, but if they don't germinate even after you soak them, like a lot of your nuts do not germinate. Almonds do, but macadamias don't. Brazil nuts, pine nuts, walnuts, pecans as an example, filberts, they don't do that. They don't germinate even if you soak them because they've already been pulled out of their shell. And once you pull them out of the shell, they won't germinate. But what you can do is soak them overnight and then culturize it. Blend it up into a cream, put a little bit of life biotic to it, and it culturizes and becomes enzyme activated and pre-digested. And then it's easy for the body to absorb it and utilize it Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, those are the reasons why I find why people are aging faster than, and losing their strength and power and aging fast, even in the raw food lifestyle, because they're not eating living food. They're not taking the time to make sure the seeds are soaked and germinated or activated or cultured and that kind of thing. And that's a big, important part, I think. So it's just it's a tie-in of the different four principles that we talked about, these four basic principles. If this is not in place, and you're not putting live food into here, and you're not doing something to stimulate the lymph, then you're going to age. It's the bottom line. And also too, if raw food people are not taking some powerful enzymes to compensate, and so they're using some of their own enzyme potential to digest the raw food that they're eating, they're using more than they're making, so they become enzyme deficient, which will cause aging, premature aging, in itself also.
So now we're with Karen Ranzi. She's been into raw foods for nearly 20 years now. You can learn more about her at superhealthychildren.com. The question I have for Karen today is, why do some raw foodists look unhealthy?
I think that one can live an extremely haphazard raw food lifestyle. And I mean, I know that I did in the first years. One thing is eating way too much nuts, and I've seen people gain a lot of weight. And then, some people come from a place of wanting to lose weight and have been told that they will with the raw food lifestyle, but if they're still eating loads of oil and loads of avocado and nuts, they're not going to be able to lose the weight. So that's one thing. And then we're eating on the raw food diet, there's a lot of foods that are considered raw that are not raw at all, and they're actually, in my opinion, quite toxic. An example being like agave, which is really no better than high fructose corn syrup, and that's in a lot of the dessert recipes. So I mean, we can't expect to feel good. I listened to a lot of misinformation when I first started. Such as I went to a meeting where they said that we don't need to brush our teeth, that this food is so cleansing. I remember being told that apple and celery clean your teeth, and strawberries. And so we ate a lot of that, my kids and I. And oh wow, months later, all of a sudden, we were still brushing, but I was very relaxed with it. So there were many times that we just, we're eating a lot of celery today. And we got a load of cavities, and we had to deal with dental problems. So you must really know what you're doing when you go into this. It's not like just go to the store and get some packaged raw food. Like just because it says RAW on it does not mean that it's healthy food. I would stick with fresh, pure, organic, and like what you teach, John, staying as close to nature as possible and getting as much greens, going to your local organic farmer, having a garden, sprouting. Those are the ways to get really good, true nutrition.
All right, thank you. So now we're with Bennett, D.A.S. He's been into a raw foods, fruit-based diet for over 20 years now. He's definitely a wealth of knowledge. If you want to tap some of that knowledge, you're going to want to check him out at his website, health101.org. Why do raw foodists look unhealthy?
Well, if they're just starting a raw food diet, then yeah, they can look unhealthy because they're coming from an unhealthy diet. But the other reason is, let's say they're looking healthy and they've been doing a raw food diet for many years, and they're starting to go downhill in some respect, they're starting to look unhealthy in some respect. There's obviously a reason for it. The reasons I found is that they're eating foods that are nutritionally insufficient. They haven't paid attention to D and B12 because they were getting it in their old diet because it was fortified in their old diet by mandate. So now they're eating a raw foods diet, and you don't get D or B12 from food normally, so now they can go downhill in D and B12, and they can look horrible from that after a while. So there are reasons for it, but it's never, ever the fault of the healthiest of the raw food diets. It's something else.
So now we're here with Dr. Mielcarski. He's been into the raw foods for the last 15 years, and you can learn more about Dr. Sam at drsampt.com, and we're going to ask him a simple question today. Why do raw foodists look so unhealthy?
Really? I think raw foodists, some raw foodists look unhealthy because their health overall is out of balance. It's very interesting that, it's a great question, John, because this happens all the time. Somebody goes raw, changes into the raw food, it does really well for a while. Then, for some reason, they think being raw, especially raw vegan, makes you impervious to everything in the world. Start to let go of those other factors that we keep coming back to, like getting enough exercise, enough sleep, loving relationships, fresh air, and it's an overall their health is suffering. Unfortunately, what happens is the people around them start to, of course, attack the diet. See, that crazy diet, Ron, it's not working. Look at it, you don't look healthy. The person who's being attacked, no, I'll prove it to you. So they start to push harder on the diet. One more avocado, one less avocado, one more banana smoothie, whatever it takes. And it doesn't work because you're trying to make up for a lack of something by implementing more of another good thing. And that's the American mentality. Well, if I do more of this one healthy thing, it'll make up for a lack of these other healthy things. No, it won't. Because as we always talk about, the chain is only as strong as its weakest link, and your chain of health is only as strong as its weakest links. So that's why some raw fooders don't look healthy, just like a lot of Americans in general don't look healthy on raw food, because their overall health is not in balance.
So now we're with one of the godfathers of the whole living foods movement here in the U.S. He actually wrote a book, Survival in the 21st Century, that's like a classic, and I'm glad to have him on the show. You know, he's pretty hard to get a hold of these days, and he's been doing a raw, enzymatic, live food, vegan diet now for the last 50 years, so he's been doing this stuff a long time. He definitely knows his stuff. If you want to learn more about Viktoras Kulvinskas, you can check him out at viktoras.org. So the question I have for Viktoras today is, why do raw foodists look unhealthy?
Wait a minute, you're insulting me.
I'm not.
I think you're a mess yourself.
But a lot of common people, like John Stossel actually, called you unhealthy, and you're like, can you do this?
Well, you watched that show. He's a nut. You know what I told people to write in? What a great show and a great job he did for helping people to get clear on raw foodism, how dangerous it could be to your health. And I said, but now why don't you bring in also some of the beefed up athletes and those who have not been challenged by all kind of health problems, and take a look at their body physique. How many of the meat eaters can do 600 push-ups in an hour? Well, even myself, I did on my Valentine's Day 400 push-ups, and I'm in my late 70s, and kind of a skinny little rut, but I was a bodybuilder. Show him on the back cover of the book. Just let him know that I'm not always skinny.
Yeah, there's Viktoras in his younger years right there. I mean,
60 younger years.
He's still young at heart.
And I was also quite obese with triple chins. I was also an anorexia poster child. You know, that's called shape-shifting. You can do it all in this life. And so why do they look so unhealthy? Well, you know why? Because most of the people who get into raw foodism are sick with incurable diseases, and they are walking zombies now. They're alive still in spite of the intervention they had by the medical community, in spite of all the other things. But now we got to take a look at some individuals like, well, Dr. Gabriel Cousins. He never was sick. Now, does he look ever unhealthy or bad?
No.
I don't know. He looks like a hunk. What about Dr. Brian Clemens? Never been sick. All right, he's been a little on the heavy side when he was a musician, but never sick. Oh my God, he's a regular gorilla over there. I wouldn't want to mess with him. So, many of us who are into the raw foodism saved our lives.
Yeah.
We were very sickly, and as a result, some of us don't look as good. But that is not necessarily that if you are sick and basically you get into this program, you're going to be sickly all your life. That is not the case. As I give you an example, one of my very dearest cousins, she's about my age. She had at 60 breast cancer. Got into this lifestyle. She loved it. Exercised like crazy, did all the supplements, and not too many, mostly enzymes and blue-green algae and systemic enzymes, digestive. And little green juices and some small meals. Well, meditated, read heavy books to exercise her mind. Well, in this time of age, she doesn't go out with guys. They go out with her. In their 30s and 40s, guys are trying to date her. Now, how many of the meat-eating gals in their late 70s are getting hit on by 30-year-old guys? Unless they're billionaires, of course. Then it's another issue altogether. They're not after your pants, they're after your bucks.
All right, Viktoras, that was an excellent answer. Today we're with Matt Monarch. He's been into raw foods diet for the last 17 years, and you can learn more about him and his internet online superstore at therawfoodworld.com. The question for Matt today is, why do raw foodists look unhealthy?
You think I look unhealthy, dude?
I'm just saying, why do raw foodists look unhealthy?
You're a raw foodist, dude.
I know.
You look pretty healthy.
I know. I would say so, but a lot of normal people think raw foodists are too skinny, they look messed up, I mean, whatever.
Well, I mean, one reason I think that could be is because everyone in the planet today is overweight, obese, and stuff like that. So when I went raw, people like who knew me before, when they saw me, they thought I looked emaciated because they were used to the old me. But then I got this, like, I was walking the streets of New York in the beginning stages, and this woman offered me a business card to see if I was interested in modeling. So it's like, what's really going on here? But also, I mean, many raw foodists, maybe they're not, I don't want to say there's a right or wrong way to do it, but maybe they're just not getting the nutrients they need. I'm a big proponent of vegetable juices and stuff like that. So I think that's pretty important on a raw food diet.
Cool. So what'd you guys think of the episode? You guys made it to the end. You heard all the reasons of all my friends on why some raw fooders may look unhealthy, and I think they're all valid. I actually kind of like Dr. Rick Dina's answer the best. Really polished. And now I'm going to go ahead and share with you guys my ideas on why some raw foodists look unhealthy. Number one reason is because people are judgmental. And this is kind of unfortunate, I mean, I took a class in college, psychology or whatever, and the teacher in the room, he had this cloud hanging from the ceiling with a word on it, and the one word was judgment. And I never knew what that meant until one day in his lesson plan he talked about suspending your judgment, because people are just so damn judgmental. He's too skinny, he's too fat, he's in a healthy diet, but he doesn't look good, all kinds of crazy stuff. We're just too judgmental. So I want to encourage you guys to just relax on the judgments, and let people do whatever they want to do, as long as it's not harming anybody, and keep your judgments to yourself. I mean, the world would be a much better place if people were just nicer to each other, right? And stop being so judgmental and just living with love and compassion. So my second reason why some raw fooders may look unhealthy are what kind of Dr. Rick Dina said is reference range. This is very important. If 70% of Americans who are, standard American diet eaters, and even some vegans and vegetarians, are overweight or obese, then when you get somebody on the flip side that's maybe skinnier than normal, but still in a healthy BMI, body mass index, they're considered skinny and they're considered unhealthy because you don't got any meat on you, right? So, I mean, most people, in my opinion, and according to the statistics, and statistics don't lie, 70% of Americans are either overweight or obese. So trying to compare somebody that's, actually at a decent height, weight, and thinness, and thinking they're unhealthy just because they don't weigh enough, that's completely false. So my third reason why some raw foodists may look unhealthy is because most raw foodists just didn't get a wild hair and decided to eat raw foods one day. Maybe a small percentage of you guys watching did. But for the majority of people into raw foods that I've talked to personally, they got into it because of a health crisis. They got into it because they're failing health, because what they were doing, their diet and lifestyle, were not working for them, so they came to an unhealthy place, and now they're working their way out of the hole. So they're already coming from being unhealthy, and just because you've been on raw foods for a week doesn't mean your whole life is going to change, doesn't mean you're going to instantly look healthy. For me on my journey, this is my 20th year doing this. I think I look pretty healthy myself, but I know that I still have a ways to go. I mean, trying to undo damage from many years of maybe not doing the right thing doesn't happen overnight. And everybody is constantly working on their own journey. in their own time frame, right? So I want you guys to cut people a break, because most people into raw foods actually came from a sick place due to the standard diet. So my fourth reason why some raw foodists may look unhealthy is because not all raw food diets are created equal. You could be a raw junk foodist. You could buy packaged raw foods at the store and gobble that down all day. You know, in my opinion, just doing that's not healthy. You could be a raw foodist that eats at gourmet raw food restaurants or just at raw food restaurants all the time. And, you know, you're gonna be healthier than maybe a standard American, but that's still not optimally healthy in my opinion. You know, most raw food restaurants have, you know, far too many nuts and seeds, oils and fats, and processed and unauthorized foods, right? I mean, you could be a raw foodist who eats high fat, who eats low fat, who doesn't eat greens, who eats lots of greens. I mean, there's so many different factors in raw foods, and not all the diets are created equal. You know, I mean, I found the diet that works for me that I like to advocate, which is, you know, a mid fruit diet. So I'll have, like, you know, moderate amounts of fruits, but still lots of greens and some amounts of fat, like lower. I like to consider myself low fat. And, you know, everybody needs to find the specific raw food diet that works for them. And that's super important, you know, and I encourage you guys to experiment. And, you know, one of the things that I've come to learn is that the higher quality food that you eat, the healthier you will be. And unfortunately, if you're just buying your food at the grocery store, you know, conventional food, even organic foods, it's not as healthy as it can be. You know, people can survive on that stuff, but if you truly want to thrive, I do encourage you guys to start growing your own food. So another reason, along with all raw food diets are not created equal, is that some raw food diet styles may encourage nutritional deficiencies, right? If you're lacking eating certain foods, you might get nutritional deficiencies. Many raw food diets, in my opinion, lack in vitamin B12, so you need to be taking a B12 supplement, in my opinion, and I do take a B12 supplement. Also, many raw food diets might be lacking in vitamin D if you're not out in the sun and your body is mostly naked, you know, and you live in a, you know, near the equator, you'd probably be getting enough, but if you live north or south of the equator too far, you just might not be making enough vitamin D. So nutritional deficiencies can play a role if you're not taking, you know, nutritional supplements and or green powders and other things. And some people might not just even believe in them because they want to eat whole foods, damn it, right? My fifth reason why some raw foodists may look unhealthy is because raw foods is not the panacea, as Dr. Sam said. Food is only one component of the many components of health, right? We want to make sure we get fresh air. We want to make sure we get enough sleep. We want to make sure we stay properly hydrated. We want to make sure that we are in good state of mind and thinking positive thoughts and always, you know, not a, you know, whatever person that worries too much, right? We want to get enough exercise. We want to, you know, have a good emotional state. We want to be in loving relationships, you know, have some dogs, have some pets, you know, touch them. You can make you feel better. I mean, so health encompasses a holistic view of many different things besides just the diet. And I met plenty of raw foodists, trust me. They may got the diet down, but they're missing a lot of these other things, right? So you want to really become holistic in your approach and get enough sleep, drink enough water, you know, get enough exercise and do the other things and all the other components of health so that you can be truly healthy. Because if you're not, you might be a raw foodist who looks unhealthy. My sixth and final reason why some raw foodists may look unhealthy, in my opinion, are because some people were just dealt bad genes, right? I mean, I'm sure you guys always know, especially you guys that eat junk food. I have my grandma or my grandpa, he's 92 years old, he smokes 2 packs of cigarettes a day, and he drinks Coke and eats meat and does all this stuff, and he looks healthy. Well, the other thing is, you know, you got to have a proper range of what healthy looks like at 92, in my opinion. But that's the other thing, you know, some people just have rock solid genes, and no matter what diet what they throw at them, you could look healthy. And, you know, some other people, unfortunately, they have a bad set of genes, and no matter what you eat or what you do, you may not look as healthy as you could just based on your genetics. I mean, in my opinion, you know, a lot of the gene pools that happen in these days because people have been living on, you know, a highly processed food diet and not traditional diets for several generations at this point, you know, things are creeping up and the genes are kind of getting worse instead of getting better. So if you have good genes, more power to you. And we need to bring the genes back and bring healthy genes back. And the way to do that, in my opinion, is by eating a healthy, whole food, you know, vegetarian, vegan, plant-based, predominantly raw, if not all raw, diet, right? So yeah, your genes may affect how you look. So I mean, and there's probably other ways that I could get into, but these are just some of the top ways that I could think of off the top of my head to share with you guys. And I want to encourage you guys, if you are on this health journey and are a raw foodist and who doesn't look healthy, please take some of the considerations that me and my friends talked about into your lifestyle and make adjustments and changes. As long as you're breathing, it's never too late to make changes. And that's why I do these videos, so that you guys could be healthier in the end than you were before watching my videos, because I give you guys a lot of information, access to a lot of different other people, my friends that have been doing this for a long time, besides just me, to give you guys ideas and create some motivation, which hopefully will cause some perspiration when you put some of these ideas into action. If you guys enjoyed this video format, hey, please give me a thumbs up to let me know. I'll do more videos interviewing my friends on a variety of topics so that you guys can improve your raw foods lifestyle. Also be sure to subscribe right down below for future and upcoming episodes. I have a lot of episodes in the works, and a lot of them are going to be really cool. And also be sure to check out past episodes. I've at least a dozen episodes now interviewing all my friends in this style format, where we go over a lot of the more controversial topics in raw foods. And for those of you guys that are watching and made it to the end that are not into raw foods and kind of thinking that all raw food is looking healthy, well, we don't all look unhealthy. There's many different factors that may play into consideration for health, and just because you're raw doesn't mean you got all your shit worked out, right? And so hopefully after the people that are doing it longer got more of their stuff worked out than somebody just doing it 2 weeks. So that's what I like to think about. And I always want to encourage you guys to improve. Even if you're eating the standard American diet now, you could always eat more fruits and vegetables, more plant foods, decrease the amount of processed foods, junk foods, low nutritional content foods, as well as the animal products, and you could start looking healthier today. And a matter of fact, one of the things they've done studies on, and that proves eating more fresh fruits and vegetables will cause you to get this raw glow that actually will have you look more attractive. So if you don't have that raw glow or look healthy, maybe you're just simply not eating enough fruits and vegetables. With that, this is John Kohler with OKRaw.com. We'll see you next time, and until then, remember, keep eating your fresh fruits and vegetables. They're always the best. All right, this is John Kohler with OKRaw.com. Today we have another exciting episode for you, coming at you from the 2015 Woodstock Fruit Festival here in New York. And one of the reasons why I like the Woodstock Fruit Festival is I get to meet new friends, but also see old ones actually